Okay, so this isn't really going to make much sense to anybody who watches this on YouTube, but I did a video, a live stream earlier, and I fucked up like really bad because what I've been trying to do with these live streams is I've been trying to save them and post them on YouTube. And evidently, if you do a live stream and you don't automatically save it, and if you exit out of the screen, like if you exit out of Instagram or something, it automatically can't, it automatically gets rid of the option to save it, and you have to save it or else the video is gone. So I really fucked up by accidentally getting out of the screen, accidentally getting out of Instagram whenever we did the live stream. So that video is gone. It's just gone. And it was a great conversation. It was very informative. And I'm really disappointed with myself. Like, I'm immensely disappointed that I fucked that whole thing up. Because it was a great conversation. It would have been a great thing to have on YouTube. And it just, I'm really angry with myself right now. I do this shit all the time, and I'm always fucking everything up, and this is just another thing that I fucked up. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It was a great video. It was a great conversation. I'm just a fucking idiot. That's all there is to it. So thanks for everybody who joined in on the video. It would have been great if I could have kept it, but it's gone. It's gone. I didn't save it. I hope the only thing that I can say is that I'll know better next time. So I'm immensely disappointed with myself. I'm angry with myself for messing that up. It's all my fault. But what else is new? Anyway. Are we still going to do a part 2? I guess. If Evan wants to join me again and we can have another conversation, it's probably not going to be as good because we covered a lot of things in that first conversation. I don't know if we're going to want to repeat ourselves. I don't know. It went really well. So it's just really disappointing. But if Evan wants to come back on and we can try to have another conversation, I'm really bummed out. It's just one of those things, is that you just got to be aware of. I didn't understand Instagram. I didn't understand how Instagram works. I thought that it could archive it, but evidently it can't. And if you don't save it right away, the video's gone forever. So the only thing I could say is that I was glad that some people joined at the time. It would have been great to have it, so I could put it on YouTube and post the good conversation and all the informative things that we talked about. I was really pleased with the way it turned out, and I was looking forward to having it on there. So I'm just disappointed because I know this is not going to turn out as good. But anyway, if Evan wants to join me, we could have another conversation, and it's not going to be as good, but maybe it'll be at least somewhat informative. I'm just really pissed off right now. You see that a lot in these videos, and the videos that I make. I just get so frustrated. I make mistakes, and I just get so frustrated with myself, and it just I end up showing like the worst sides of myself. Ugh. Man, I'm just waiting for him to come back on. Hey, man.
Yeah. Yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay. It's just, it's one of those things where it can't be helped, you know. It's just, it's another one of those things. It's happened to me before with certain things, and it's kind of just a dyspraxic thing too, a little, I think. Just, just putting the cart before the horse, jumping the gun a little, and all that.
Yeah, sometimes you accidentally hit something and it
Mhm.
just gets out of it, you know? Like
Yeah,
and I didn't know that if I went back to Inst, if I just clicked on the icon again, that it wouldn't just go back to the option
yeah,
that I had before I saved it and shared it. And
yeah.
you know, you got to make mistakes to learn from them. It's just disappointing, you know, because it was a good video. We had
Yeah,
a good
I can
conversation.
understand that.
Once you have those like frustrating things happen, it's like you can't be as on top of things because you're just so in the back of your mind you can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah,
Siobhan, I'm sorry that I can't let you in the video because I can only have one person at a time. That's another thing in Instagram. It's not like Zoom where you can have multiple people. But hey, we could always do like a live stream between you and me one of these days. You know,
yeah.
I'm looking to do more of these. Except, you know, I'm learning as I go. This is only my second live stream with somebody else, and
hmm
um, I just made a mistake. That's all I can
And
say.
it's partly Instagram. Instagram has room for a lot of improvement. It's it's not the best app in the world. The format's a little wonky, and
Yeah,
um, it could be a lot more thorough with um, like a lot of other things that have pop-ups that say, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Something like that, like on a game, kind of like if you're gonna delete something, it'll say, "Are you sure you want to delete this?" and then give you the option to say yes or no, um, and stuff like that. They have a lot of bugs too, so it's not really just your fault. Instagram could also do something about making things a little more practical and all that.
yeah, more streamlined, and it would. Yeah, I mean, It's just I didn't know that that's how it worked. You know, because
hmm
normally, like if I go on YouTube and I try to upload something and I accidentally just get out of the app, I go back to it and it's automatically back on the upload screen. You know. I
hmm
didn't know that it's like, no, you have to hit that save button at that time. If you get out of it, it automatically cancels the whole thing and the video is gone. I'm
hmm
not I'm not totally sure if there's any way to salvage it, but from just information I Googled, it it does seem like you have to save the video for the video to be
Yeah.
saved, which makes sense.
I'm thinking myself too because I had thought about um like recording the screen while we do it because I have a screen recorder. Um, but I think that would have backfired anyways because it only lets me record like 15 minutes or something like that.
Yeah,
But
plus there's no way of knowing if that would affect the quality of things. Because
yeah.
when I was doing the live stream with Allison, um, we we were also trying to record on Zoom at the same time, because I didn't know that you could upload live streams from Instagram directly to YouTube. Or there's an
Mm,
app you have to use, but I have the app and you can download
mhm.
the video and then put it to YouTube easily. But we were trying to do that. So, if people see that video on YouTube, you'll see us having audio problems and stuff and lagging
Mhm.
problems simply because we were trying to do two things at once, two different recordings at once. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just very unfortunate, and
Mhm.
that sort of thing. I mean, I can only blame myself, so I can't say it happened to me, but um,
Yeah.
that sort of thing is a common thing. So I guess it's good to see that in action, because it just goes to show that that's just something that happens with Dyspraxics is we do make, we do make errors, we do make mistakes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the videos on my channel, there you kind of see that, like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I
Mhm.
don't really know. I'm not very tech savvy. I'm not really good with apps or editing type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that you learn as you do it, and you learn as you go.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that this would happen, and now I know better. So I'm hoping that when I do more live streams in the future, I I'm going to be very aware of, make sure that you save it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's it. There's no point in doing keeping the whole thing on this
Yeah.
topic, but
It's okay. And I mean, personally, it's good that we learned now and not later when perhaps um, you're doing a more important live stream with other people. And of course, we can also always have more live streams um, with similar intelligent conversations as well.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do it. You just got to make sure you save it in the end. Um,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I would like to do with it, and with other people too. It doesn't even have to just be dyspraxia. I mean, I could do live streams with other people and save them, and
Mhm.
all that stuff. But I want to do more dyspraxia stuff, and it's hard for me to just do that on my own. I mean, I write about my dyspraxic experiences at work and just things
Mhm.
going on. Um, in my blog and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I'm not really good at writing like analytical stuff that really dives in. I'm better at just talking about it with like another person
Mhm.
who shares similar experiences, and sharing in our you know our mutual experiences.
Yeah. And in response to Sio's question,
Sure.
saying, um, and it shows how hard we are on ourselves, is that a dyspraxic thing? I know from my experience, I'm kind of hard on myself. Well, not kind of. I'm really hard on myself sometimes, because I expect better from myself.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to do better and I want to be perfect and dyspraxia gets in the way of that um, because it messes with things up
Yeah.
um, and so it's weird because it makes me want to do really good, but at the same time it's the reason why I'm not doing really good
Yeah.
in certain instances. Um,
You feel like you have
but
to prove more. You have to prove
mhm,
yourself more, and then you just end up disappointing. It becomes like a
yeah,
vicious cycle. It's like you want to overcome it, and you want to push yourself to do better than you think you would because of it, but then it gets in the way. And
hmm one 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 instance I can remember um, is I was really hard on myself. I was like 6 or 7. Um, Before I learned about dyspraxia, I was 13 when I found out I might have dyspraxia. But um, that was like the first time I can remember being serious about drawing something. I think it was a horse. And it ended up looking super weird. And I was really, really hard on myself about it because I was like, I want this to look perfect because I spent so much time on it. It was like half a day or something like that.
yeah,
Um, uh, and I was super down on myself, and my mom kind of was there for me. She told me about Pablo Picasso and um, how his art is kind of abstract and looks funny, and my horse looked kind of funny, and it was kind of like that. So it kind of made me feel better about it, and I learned about something that I hadn't really heard about before, and I just kind of continued to keep drawing, and
Mhm.
I slowly got better at it too. So,
That's what that kind of brings back something we talked about in the now gone,
mhm,
diminished, lost Instagram. It's gonna be something we talk about for ages, the lost Instagram live stream.
yeah.
But I was talking about how I used to do something called bad portraits, and
Hmm.
basically what would happen to reiterate what I said in that video is I used to I wanted to be a cartoonist when I was a kid, and I would have these characters in my mind, and I would try to draw them, but every time I drew them, they just didn't come out right, and they just looked weird, and my brothers would make fun of me for how they looked, and I just get really frustrated. But as I got older, I would still I would still draw things, and they would still look weird, but like I used to draw like portraits of people. I used to call them bad portraits, and I would have people's model for me, and I would just try to draw them, and then they would come out looking weird, but it was something that became like a funny kind of thing that I would do, and people actually liked them because they were funny drawings. Um, so it's just one of those things. But as far as I mean, being hard on myself, that's like an understatement with me. Like I admit that I tend to go to extremes with how hard on myself I become, and just part of my own insecurities. I mean, yeah, it's hard for me to accept myself. Um, so I whenever I fall short, I feel like that's just something. Um, it's like a matter of course. It's like, of course, I would mess that up. And over years, I think that when you go through things, especially when like I used to go through bullying, people used to bully me. My brothers picked on me a lot. My parents were always pointing out my flaws, and it's like, how come you can't do this and blah blah blah. So it messes with somebody's self-esteem and how they feel about themselves. And so I'm always like carrying that kind of like self-hatred, and it's a problem, but it's like it's a problem I don't even know how to fix. Like, how do you, if you have those feelings about yourself, that where you just feel like you can't accept yourself and you see yourself in this warped way, it's really hard, and you do kind of like take an extreme with just demonizing yourself. And you make even a tiny mistake. I wrote about this in my blog a few months ago where I was doing laundry, and didn't bring I didn't bring like the laundry detergent with me to the laundromat. Like I have a laundromat on the other side of my apartment complex, and I didn't bring the laundry detergent. So I walked all that way, and I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, you idiot!" Like blah blah. And I just started like, and then I went back and I grabbed the laundry detergent, walked all the way back. I started putting coins in the washing machine. I realized I didn't bring enough quarters, so I had to walk all the way back to do that. And it's kind of funny, but like at the time, I was beating myself. Is that your?
Sorry about that. I had
It's all
someone
right.
call me.
It's all right. But I was like beating myself up so much. Like the thoughts that I have. You ever watch the show BoJack Horseman? Anyway, the show BoJack Horseman. There's an episode called "Stupid Piece of Shit," where he calls himself. In the whole episode, you hear his inner thoughts and stuff. And if you watch that episode, like it's pretty much how it is for me. Like I'm always having those kinds of thoughts. You got really. Oh,
There we go. All right.
can you hear me
Sorry
now?
about that.
It's
Yeah.
all right. I was
Yeah.
talking about this show BoJack Horseman, and an episode where basically you get his inner thoughts, and it's just like he's like putting himself down. He's like calling himself a stupid piece of shit, you idiot. This is why everyone hates you, all that stuff. And sadly, like those, like it's really accurate to sort of my thought processes, and a lot of people have those types of things too. Um, I don't know, it's just really hard sometimes, like to accept yourself, and you beat yourself up over the most minor of things, but it becomes like a natural thing, and that's the problem with me. Is like I shouldn't do that, and I know I shouldn't do that, and I should be a little bit easier on myself. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, Siobhan, I don't know if it's a dyspraxic thing necessarily. I mean, I think it can be. Um, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that have happened in my life that are just kind of like closely woven together. That it's like a tapestry of um, psychological trauma, I guess. And
Yeah.
so
It's like I can understand like with your laundromat thing, even going through the house back and forth through my house is really really annoying because I'll go to my room to get something and take something with me, and then I'll look around in my room because I'm a dyspraxic and I never put it in the same space that it's meant to be. So I'll be looking it around. Say I take a pencil with me and I need my eraser. I'll put my pencil down, and then I'll find my eraser and go back to my desk where I'm at now. And then I'll be like, "Where's my pencil?" So I'll be looking around at my desk, then a little while later, I'll realize, oh, my pencil's back in my room. And then go back in my room, look for my pencil, and then I'll get situated at my desk for school, whatever. And then I'll realize that I left my book in the living room or something like that. So I got to go out of the schoolroom again and go to the living room, or I need a glass of water and all that walking around and getting things and stuff like that can really be annoying, and stuff like, oh, you forgot the pencil or whatever. And it's just really annoying and all that. And sometimes I'll ask like my sibling for help, but they're not very helpful. And they're like, no, like you do it yourself. And I get called lazy a lot and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things.
yeah, I'm always like, it frustrates people sometimes. Like if I go to somebody's house, sometimes I leave things there, you know.
Hmm.
So I always have like, yeah, I forget things all the time everywhere I go, and oftentimes I leave the house. Something that's been happening recently for me, leaving the house because of everything going on, is that sometimes I leave the house and then we'll like start pulling out of like the apartment complex, and I'll be like, oh crap, I forgot my mask, like my face
Oh
mask.
yeah, yeah. That I know. I'll be going to the store or something with my dad or something like that, and I'll be in the car and like halfway out of the driveway, and then realize, oh, my mask, and I'll have to run out of the truck and down the driveway and back into the house and run around looking for my mask because again, I don't put it in the same place every time I put it down. And uh, so it's just stuff like that is really exhausting, especially after a long day where things might have not have turned out well. It can just be like one of those final straws where you're just like, ugh, stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, I get a lot of those days, and sometimes you go. Sometimes you have days where it's like you don't even feel like the dyspraxia is affecting you at all. You know,
Hmm.
sometimes you have those days where it's like everything is just on track, everything is in the rhythm, and it's just like everything is going well. You know, like I had a pretty decent day today. Nothing really bad happened today at work. I mean, this is like the worst thing that happened to me today. It was the
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happened with the live stream. Um, but some days it's like everything is going wrong, and then you get to a point you do
Hmm.
become mentally exhausted. And I think that's
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we deal with the most with dyspraxia, is that we get very easily mentally exhausted, even from just minor things, you know, like and sometimes people are just like, how can you, sometimes we think to ourselves like, how can I be this like mentally drained when I didn't even do anything today? Like it's
Yeah.
just, you're just thinking too much or just trying to, you know, just get through the day. And
I Yeah, I agree with that. I saw a post about dyspraxia a while ago. I don't know if you've seen Doctor Who. I've seen it a little bit, but
my brother used to
um,
watch it. I know a little bit. Seen it a bit.
yeah, someone described dyspraxia as the doctor regenerating, um, but like 2 times more exhausting, kind of,
Mm.
and every single day, just by doing things. Um, 'Cause the Doctor, he's an alien, and every time he dies, he kind of regenerates and reincarnates into a a different body and all that,
He gets
because of
recasted.
but um, yeah, and he's usually like stuck in bed for a day or two, because it's an exhausting ordeal that he goes through. But yeah, I get really mentally exhausted, especially when doing things with other people. Like I need help with my math sometimes, so mom and I will sit down and work things out together. But after we're done with like the 5 or 6 problems that we have, working it out is just, it's really exhausting and leaves me really tired and just kind of kaput for the day a little
Yeah.
bit. Um, and it's, I get more mentally exhausted than I do physically.
Yeah.
Um, like like yesterday, I went to a trampoline park with my friend because it was his birthday,
A
and
trampoline park. I've never
yeah,
heard of those. That sounds awesome though.
really. Really, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like this big campus area. It's indoors usually, and they have trampolines all over the place, and other things too. Like they had this obstacle course where you kind of like swung and hung onto things and made your way across a ball pit thing. And they also had this um like beam that went across a bunch of foam cubes, and you kind of had to knock the other person into it. And then they had trampolines where you could do flips and stuff. It was really cool. And we
That
did
sounds
that
fun. I would
for,
love to do something like that.
yeah, we did that for a day, and I woke up this morning going, oh, I'm so tired. My arms kind of hurt because I really used the obstacle course a lot. Um, but it was really fun. But um, like I was able to get out of bed and all that and do things pretty normally. I was still able to do a couple pull-ups because I have a little routine going for a little bit of exercise at least. But um, I don't get too physically exhausted. I don't have a lot of stamina, but it doesn't exhaust me.
Yeah, that's how it is for me. That's my stamina is like when I go running, I can only run for like maybe 5, 6, 5 to 8 minutes, and
Hmm.
then I have to walk. But if I'm walking,
Yeah.
I could walk for hours and I won't feel like physically tired. I mean, I might feel,
Hmm.
I'll get sweaty, I'll get out of breath and stuff, but like I don't really feel tired per se. It's just mental
Hmm.
exhaustion. In fact, that's the problem
Hmm.
with like when I try to go to sleep, like my body is still physically full of energy, but my mind is ready to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But the job that I have now, I'm a cashier, and it gets really exhausting for me just to deal with so many people all
Oh
day,
yeah,
all of
yeah.
these customers and trying to put on a face and be fake. I'm really good at being fake.
Hmm.
I'm like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
But it's like after a while, like between whenever it gets to a point where like there's nobody at my register, I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
and then somebody starts coming up like, hey, how you doing, sir? I got that Texan
And
like customer service voice, like, hey, how y'all doing today?
yeah. And especially retail too. That's a tough job. I haven't um really dealt with that too much because I haven't had a legitimate job yet. But like I plan on working at Jack in the Box as soon as I'm able to because they offered me a job, kind of. They said I could work there when I'm old enough.
I think
Um,
you should, whenever you do that, you should maybe you should write or talk about your experiences because I'm sure that there's going to be
mhm.
some things that
Yeah.
dyspraxia. Because I've worked in fast food before, and I can tell you that there are definitely things that dyspraxia comes up in that type of environment. I mean, not to like stress you out or anything, but
No, no, no,
I
no.
think it'll
It's
be
all right.
fine ultimately. I mean, I was fine doing fast food, well, for
Mhm.
some of it, but like I definitely had experiences that were, closely related to dyspraxia.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's definitely something like, me like in my blog, the first blogs that I posted were about me starting the first getting into waiting tables for the first
Mhm.
time and talking about how the dyspraxia was affecting that. And I definitely had some issues. Like I had a panic attack one night. It got really bad. Um, but it gave me something to write about, and it gave you
Yeah.
like an interesting perspective on being in a workplace environment and with dyspraxia and working in I've worked in fast food, I've worked as a server, and I've worked in retail. And retail was probably the easiest for me. Um, but like it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
Like being a like a good example of the physical exhaustion and the mental exhaustion is when I worked at Walmart. I worked three different positions at Walmart. I worked in self checkout, I worked as a cashier, and I worked in the online grocery department. And I'll tell you the most laid back one was the self checkout. Obviously,
Mhm.
when I did it, I actually had a blast because I worked with people that I really liked, and we all became really good friends. And a lot of us are still friends, even though I moved away. So that was the most enjoyable and the least exhausting, although it could be exhausting. It was emotionally exhausting, but that was because of personal things I was dealing with at the time, and I kept seeing somebody in the store that I didn't want to see, or that was hard to see. But when I did the cashier, when I'm doing, and I'm dealing with it now as a cashier, it was the most exhausting for me because I'm standing in one space and I'm very restless. I need to be moving around, but I
Yeah.
can't. I'm confined at this station. Um, and I have to deal with person after person, and it's just that just becomes a point where it's like I can't. Ugh.
Yeah. And you
But
get
the online grocery, like I was that was the most physically exhausting because it was the most physically demanding because I had to do a lot of
yeah.
heavy lifting. I had to work outside a lot. I had to do a lot of dragging heavy, carts around and just walking around. But that was probably the least stressful, other than the
Mm.
self checkout thing. But that was less
Yeah.
stressful than being a cashier, even though it was harder work and it was more demanding. But
Mhm.
I enjoyed it more.
I think cashier sounds like a pretty difficult job because like the things you said and sometimes people are just flat out rude to you
Yeah,
for no apparent reason. Like like they call them Karens and stuff
yeah.
and um
I deal with that a lot.
something happens to you or them is somehow your fault, even though you don't really have any control over like I don't know what color the ceiling is or something like that.
Yeah,
Just
or it's
something.
like the coupon is not scanning and somehow it's something you're doing wrong. There's a lot of
Yeah.
annoying things I have to deal with. I could go on about it.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, that's any service job you have to deal with that. Whether you're waiting tables, working in the register at a fast food place, or you're yeah, or else you're working in retail. There's always people that are going to be unhappy no matter what, and they're going to take their day out on you. And I learned to just deal with that. I can deal with that more than I can deal with like when I work with people who are like that, you know, and I have to deal with them
Yeah.
all day.
Hmm. Yeah.
One thing that I've been doing recently, like when customers come up to my register, I always tell them, "Hi, how are y'all doing?" If they don't say anything, if they completely ignore my greeting, then at the end of the transaction, I don't tell them to have a nice day. Like I
Yeah.
just like move on to the next person. Like if they don't greet me, if they just ignore me, then as soon as I hand them the receipt, I'm like, "Hi, how are you doing?" Like I just completely ignore them.
I I try my best to be as respectful as possible to people in general, but also retail workers because I respect their job and I can understand that it's hard sometimes. And personally, if it were me, um, someone coming up and just treating me with a little bit of respect would be a godsend after a long, hard day at work with maybe one or more possible Karens coming to your register and complaining about something, all
Yeah,
that.
it makes a
So
huge difference.
I just try to be the nicest person as possible and ask them about their day and wish them a nice evening or something like that.
See, I do that too. Yeah, I'm always that kind of person. If I like with any service worker, I go to a fast food place and I order, and I just ask them how like I'll ask them how their day is going, you know, and I will chat with them, and I've made friends
Mhm.
that way, you know, and it's a great thing to be, and people really do pick up on that sort of thing because from experience, I can tell you that most of the people that you deal with, even if they're not really all that unpleasant, like even if they're not too bad, like there's not a lot of positivity, you know. They're just like they're just kind of people going like they don't. It's like they don't really see you as a person. You're just
Yeah,
providing a service for them, and that's all that you are to them. But if somebody's actually asking, "How are you? How is your day going today?" then
hmm,
it makes you feel good. So I try to do that too, and I try. And if there's like a mistake, if something happens, like I'm always respectful. I'm always like, it's
yeah,
okay. It's not your fault. Or if it is a mistake on their part, I'm like, I understand. Believe me, trust me. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't worry about
yeah.
it. You know,
Hmm.
and there's no
And
reason to make a big deal out of those things because at the end of the day, it's just like it's just food. It's just I mean, it's a small part of your life. It's not going to affect you in the long run. So why worry about it? Why be one of those people?
it also leaves an impression on people sometimes, not and a lasting one sometimes too, because I've had people tell me that just me being relatively kind to them has turned their day around, and I've had a few people remember it, and I've gotten slight discounts on things, or they've taken the time to memorize my order or something like that. I'm pretty sure the Jack in the Box here um, still does the three taco combo because I ordered it a lot. Um, I used to go to Jack in the Box a lot, and that's what I'd order. But
When
uh,
I go to Firehouse Subs, I used to work there, and I used to order from there a lot, but not so much these days. But like a few weeks ago, my brother and I decided to call in for an order there, and I always got honey mustard. So they got to a point where they were always like, "You want honey mustard?" Like they recognized my voice, and they always knew I was gonna get honey mustard with my sandwich. And this was like months later, maybe like I hadn't been there in like 5 months. I called them. I was
mhm.
like, "Yeah, I'd like to order this sandwich. You have like a new sandwich? I'd like to try it, you know." And they were like, "Is this Brandon? You want honey mustard with that?" And it's like, yes, yes, thank you.
Yeah, Yeah. It was like that. The people at My Jack in the Box, they are really awesome people. There was a time where there was like a new manager where she made everything kind of just feel gloomy and stuff because she was kind of like um, missed by the book stuff, but that's a different story. But I used to order egg rolls a lot with teriyaki sauce, which was kind of an uncommon order. Um, but I would order it and they'd be like, "You want egg rolls with teriyaki sauce this time?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so I kind of had a similar experience with that
I don't see
too.
how that's unusual.
I don't know.
Teriyaki sounds like a go with
I
egg
think
roll.
I think more people ordered oh, it was something with honey in it or something like that. It was different. Um,
Um,
I can't remember the name of it, but
I always get
uh,
honey mustard with everything. People think it's weird. I'm
yeah,
always like, you need the honey mustard. Yeah, I mean, honey mustard's
yeah,
good.
yeah. I like it. It's all right. It's not bad. I'll eat it. But yeah. What is the weirdest thing that you've gotten asked related to dyspraxia? Like something that people have asked you if it's related to dyspraxia, but it's completely unrelated. Like, one time someone asked me, it's hard to tell, but I have really pointy teeth, and someone asked me if that was related to dyspraxia at all, and I kind of laughed at them, just because it was such an odd question. Um, I told them not really, it was just a thing, but that was kind of like my weirdest question that I've gotten asked related
I,
to dyspraxia.
I think I may have brought it up in the infamous Lost live stream.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I think uh, I think it was the are you sure that you don't mean dyslexia,
Oh
but
yeah.
you're wrong, like you're pronouncing it wrong or something.
Hmm.
Um, oh hey Matt, my friend Matt has just joined. He
Oh,
missed all the mayhem, which of course that was mayhem. He's my songwriting partner. We write songs together. Um,
nice.
so yeah, he's a very talented. Give him a follow. Check out some of his music, some of our music too, because we've written a lot of songs together. Maybe like 50 songs by this point.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and we're working on an EP right now. In fact, we're just before I started doing the original live stream, I was working on a new song. Um, that we were working on, and I'm not going to tell him what it is. I was doing 3 songs, and he doesn't know what any of them are going to be about until I finish all 3 of them. So it's going to be
Nice.
interesting. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, it's just my friend. He was on here. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to embarrass him or anything. But he did say something one time that made me go. Um, when he said, and I think he may have been joking, but he suggested like, you don't you're not just saying that you have dyspraxia because you want to be like Daniel Radcliffe, do you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't.
It didn't.
First of all, I'm not like the biggest Daniel Radcliffe fan.
Mhm.
Allison is. She's a massive Daniel Radcliffe fan. I like Daniel Radcliffe. He's a great actor. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, I know that didn't help. It didn't help that I was kind of reading the Harry Potter books and watching the movies at the same time as I was first learning about dyspraxia and all that. And in fact, I actually learned that Daniel Radcliffe had dyspraxia about last year, um, because I just kind of wanted to know if anyone important had dyspraxia. And I learned that he had dyspraxia as well as Albert Einstein, I think. I think I remember reading something about that too. But people were like, "Are you sure you're not trying to be more like Daniel Radcliffe and just like pretending or anything like that, and stuff like that. It
Yeah,
was kind of
as he says, it was a joke. Which yeah, he has a very interesting sense of humor, so that kind of thing. But Daniel Radcliffe was actually how I learned about dyspraxia. I mean, I was 17. The final Harry Potter movie had just come out. I can't remember if I think it was after I think no, it was before I saw it because I remember going to see the last movie and then thinking like trying to see bits of myself in him if I could, because I learned about dyspraxia. But yeah, it was just a I was randomly looking just reading about him on like online and I was just it was just a boring night, it's just like scrolling through and then I see this list of symptoms about dyspraxia and I'm just like hold on, and it was like very emotional for me, and
hmm
this is a poignant part of my book, but I it was very eye opening for me. It was very emotional. It was like such a cathartic moment, and then I had to tell somebody. Like you have those moments like, oh my God, like
hmm
everything makes sense.
yeah.
I gotta tell somebody about this. So I told my brother, and I forget what he said. He made some joke. Uh, because I said, oh, I was just reading about this disorder. I think I might have it. Like, just everything makes sense. And I'm like paraphrasing because I don't know the exact reference he made, but he said something like, yeah, I think I may have AIDS because I read about it online. So I must have it. Making a joke about me being a hypochondriac. I forget exactly what the condition he said, but it was yeah it
Yeah.
I knew he was joking, but it was like it was not something I wanted to joke about yet
Yeah.
because I know what he was basically getting at. He was basically saying you're full of crap,
hmm
like you're just saying that you have this because you read it online, and
Yeah.
but it wasn't like that, and I that was one of the big problems I had was that people because I was saying I had it or because I was saying like I think I might have this and I wasn't like clinically diagnosed by a professional,
Yeah.
people
And
didn't believe me.
yeah. And that's what's really rough about especially being an American dyspraxia is that I I've looked a little bit and I haven't really found like a way to get officially diagnosed
Me
as
neither.
dyspraxic without traveling somewhere. I think I'm not sure, but I think there's like a specialist for dyspraxia somewhere in Texas. I'm not sure. But and then there's obviously the UK and stuff. But um Billy from Dyspraxic Help for You, I think you might know him. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I forgot that's who connected us.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, he he sent me a resource. It was kind of a professional test to rate you kind of if you might have dyspraxia or not. It was like 12 pounds sterling. It was like $8. So I paid for it and I tested um moderate to high for dyspraxia. So I was like, well, I have a high chance of being dyspraxic, so I'm gonna take that as official as I can get until I find something more.
Yeah.
Um, if I can find that test, I might send it your way. I mean, if you want
Yeah.
to do it, but
Yeah, I mean
uh,
that's the one of the hardest things, and I had somebody tell me once like, what is a diagnosis going to do for you? Like, how is
yeah,
it going to change anything? And I'm like, well, it makes it official. I mean, it's
mhm,
actually something that's going to say you have been diagnosed with this. This is something that you actually have. Oh, thanks, Jake. Saying that this is more enjoyable than the first. So that, maybe my rage has boosted it. No, but no, basically, yeah, that's one of the hardest things is the fact that you can't get a diagnosis for it. That it's so hard to get a diagnosis. And I, what difference would it make if I got it? Well, I could tell people that I have been diagnosed with it. Maybe it could
mhm,
lead to resources to help treating it or making it better. And just the fact that if you get an official diagnosis, then people take you much more serious
Yeah,
about it, you know?
definitely.
People just dismiss it if it's a self-diagnosis. But if it's
Yeah,
official,
that definitely makes sense, and I can agree with that because even though it doesn't quite do as much for you on the surface, in looking deeper into it, it actually does a lot for you. It can just clarify for you in your head, yes, I'm actually this.
I'm not
I'm
crazy.
not still wandering around looking for what might be wrong with me. It's definitely this.
Yeah.
And it cleans up some confusion because at one point before I took the test, I think I was still worried. I was like, what if it isn't dyspraxia? What if it is something else that I don't know about? Am I back to square one? Am I gonna have to start all over, wondering
Yeah.
about what is wrong with me? Oh, thank you.
I've had thoughts like that.
And but after taking the tests, it kind of solidified for me that yeah, you're 92% probable for being dyspraxic and all that.
Well, when I read about it, like it just makes it makes too much sense. You know, everything that I read
Mhm.
about with dyspraxia is like it just describes most of the non-emotional problems. Because I mean, everybody goes through things like, you know, just in nature versus nurture, that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I know that the circumstances in my life have affected me in different ways. That's not just the dyspraxia, but when I really think about it, a lot of it is at least indirectly related to it.
Yeah.
And then part of it is just like my upbringing and, just factors that just kind of were part of our life and where we lived and all
Mhm.
that. So it's just kind of the way it is. But when I read the symptoms and read people's stories and experiences, like when I do the Zoom meetings that I was talking about with other dyspraxic, they'll talk about things, and I'm just like, yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm dealing with. Sometimes
Yeah.
they put words that you can't even find the words to, and vice versa. You
Mhm.
find words that people say, oh yeah, that's totally what it is like for me.
Yeah.
And we
And
have a unique perspective on it because we live in the United States, obviously, and
mhm.
in the UK, there's a lot more coverage
Yeah.
about it. There's a lot more resources, and there's a bigger community. I mean, it's like I hear people from the UK talk about it's like, oh yeah, I'm from Cornwall, and it's like, oh yeah, I live
Yeah.
like about 30 miles away from that, and it's like all these people who live like in close proximity, and it's like
Yeah.
I have never met somebody from Texas who has dyspraxia. Like
Yeah.
you live in Nevada. I
Yeah.
knew somebody from like Colorado years ago I used to talk to. So it's like I've never met somebody in my
Yeah.
own state who was like, I'm dyspraxic. And Texas
Yeah.
is a big state.
Um, the closest person that might be dyspraxic too in my state is my dad because he has a lot of the same struggles that I do. Um, he has a lot of spatial awareness problems and speech stuff too. He has a lot of speech problems. He mumbles a lot and kind of slurs his words a little bit. Um, but other than that, you're the only American dyspraxic I know of, and I mean, I'm really glad that Billy kind of introduced me to you because just knowing that there's someone else that you don't know and you can get to know that's like you is kind of relieving because it feels
Really.
like you aren't alone.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way. And I'm like obviously met a lot of people with dyspraxia from the UK. I've made some good connections that
Mhm.
way. But there's an experience that I have that they don't, because I'm from the United States, and it's just different for us because there's less understanding about it, and there's less coverage and resources for it. And it's like we're like living, we feel like a minority, but we're probably not as much of a minority as we
Yeah.
think. It's just we're the minority of Americans who have
Mhm.
discovered this about themselves, as opposed to
Yeah.
the thousands or maybe over a million who don't know what's wrong with them. You know, it's like I said before, it's like UK is a much smaller country, and there's so
Mhm.
many Dyspraxics. There's such a big Dyspraxic community over there,
Yeah.
and over here it's just not the same. And Siobhan, the biggest difference, um, I think it's just the fact that it's not talked about. We have like
Mhm.
one American organization in which is the Dyspraxia USA Foundation, and I have had negative experiences with them. I tried to start a discussion about mental health with dyspraxia, because I wanted to talk about how does it affect your mental health, because it does. And I got banned from their Facebook page, and the leader of the organization, Warren, he blocked me on his account. Never gave me a reason. Never gave me, just for talking about mental health. And they don't really focus on like adults living with dyspraxia. They focus on like children and all that stuff, which is fine. That's great.
Mm.
I'm all for
Younger
kids.
children,
Yeah,
like
I'm all for kids getting that early intervention. But what about us who have gone through our
mhm.
lives and we didn't get to have that? Like there deserves to be an adult conversation about it. And I just got completely just blocked out of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so I just lost my faith. Plus, I don't think they do a very good job with spreading awareness, because look how little awareness there is in this country for dyspraxia.
Mhm.
If they were really doing something, I think people would know more about it. I think that they present themselves as caring, as trying, but they don't really do anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing much that they do.
Everyone I've talked to, like in my immediate circle of people I know, everyone that I've talked to, um, has never heard of dyspraxia before
Same.
in the and
I've only met one person here that has ever heard about it, but he only vaguely heard about it because he
mhm,
heard something about neurological stuff. But
yeah. I
everybody
should
else is
amend that.
like, what's that?
I should amend what I said because recently I did talk to my doctor, my pediatrician, um about it because I felt that he might know of any resources, and I think he said one of his sons is apraxic, so he knows a little bit of the similarities between apraxia and dyspraxia, but he didn't know of any resources. I think he might have mentioned the American Dyspraxic Foundation, but for the most part, it was still an intelligent conversation because we were talking about the similarities between his son and me, all that. So, um, I do know of one person that has heard of it. So,
But you also, I'm sure you understand, like you've been in this situation where you're talking to somebody about it, and all they do is look at you like dumbfounded, like they're just like,
hmm
they just don't get it. Like they just do not get it. They don't understand what you're talking about. It's like you're talking a different language. It's really hard, because it's like you try to explain it the best you can, but it's like they're just not wrapping their heads around the idea of it, which I think it's reasonable. I think it's like
yeah,
I think it can make sense. It's like, okay, there's a disconnect between, your intelligence and what you do, physically. And it's like, I guess people just can't think outside of, they can't wrap their minds around that concept. It's like, that's our everyday existence, is that disconnect. And it's like, we are fine up here for the most part, other than like memory and thought processing and stuff, which varies from person to person. So this has been going on for a while, and it's about to cut off the live stream.
Mm,
I think
yeah.
so. I guess we'll put an end to it. But thanks for joining me.
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
conversation went really well. And
Hmm.
10 seconds remaining. I'll let you have the last word.
Uh, I think it was really good, even better than the one that was lost.